In a bustling metropolis where gleaming skyscrapers met the whispers of forgotten alleyways, a battle of wills unfolded. A tale that still echoes in the corridors of power and among those who dare to dream beyond the confines of corporate tyranny. This is the saga of two men whose lives collided in an epic struggle of ambition, betrayal, and redemption. A story of a ruthless business magnate, Arthur Pierce, whose insatiable hunger for control decimated the humble aspirations of a small business owner, and of Kevin Thompson, a man whose spirit was forged in the crucible of loss, only to rise from the ruins and exact a meticulously planned revenge that would shake the very foundation of the business world. Let me take you back to a time when the city pulsed with the raw energy of opportunity. Arthur Pierce was a man whose reputation was built on both brilliance and brutality. From a modest start, he had transformed himself into a formidable titan of industry, a man whose empire sprawled across the financial district, a constellation of companies thriving under his command. Arthur's name evoked both admiration and fear, for his methods were as ingenious as they were ruthless. He played the corporate game like a master strategist, always staying several moves ahead of his adversaries. His empire was a mosaic of ambitious ventures, each piece meticulously crafted through cunning deals, influential connections, and, at times, underhanded tactics. His office, high above the city's frenetic pace in a sleek, glass-walled tower, was a silent testament to his triumphs, a throne from which he could survey the realm he had so dominantly conquered. Then there was Kevin Thompson, a small business owner with a modest yet thriving enterprise, a little shop nestled in a vibrant neighborhood that had grown into a community landmark over the years. Kevin had poured every ounce of his passion, integrity, and hard work into his venture. His business was more than a mere source of income. It was a manifestation of his dreams and a symbol of hope for those who believed that perseverance and honesty could triumph over adversity. Every morning, as the golden light filtered through the storefront, Kevin greeted his loyal customers with a warm smile and genuine care, unaware that his success had already drawn the envious eyes of a man like Arthur. For Arthur, Kevin's flourishing enterprise was not merely a competitor. It was an inconvenient anomaly, a small spark of independent success in a world Arthur was determined to control. Viewing Kevin's business as an impediment to his grand design, Arthur set his formidable power into motion. With swift and calculated moves, he manipulated regulatory frameworks, covertly swayed influential officials, and orchestrated a series of events that would undermine Kevin's once promising venture. Slowly but surely, the foundation of Kevin's business began to crumble. Trust dissolved, loyal customers dwindled, and before long, the cheerful bustle of the shop was replaced by an eerie silence. Kevin stood as a bystander to the disintegration of his lifelong dream, a victim of the unyielding machinations of a corporate colossus. The devastation was complete. In what felt like the blink of an eye, Kevin found himself bereft of everything he had worked so hard to build. His business, his identity, and his sense of purpose lay in ruins, dismantled by the very forces that champion power over integrity. The emptiness he felt was overwhelming, a deep, gnawing void born of betrayal and injustice. For weeks, he wandered through the remnants of his shattered world, haunted by memories of bustling days and the promise of a future that was cruelly snatched away. Yet, even amid this profound despair, a spark began to flicker in the darkness, a defiant ember of determination that refused to be extinguished. It was in these moments of solitude, when the city's din seemed a distant murmur, that Kevin vowed to reclaim his destiny. He made a silent promise to himself. He would rebuild from the ground up, not merely to regain what was lost, but to forge a new path that would hold the powerful accountable. With nothing left to lose and a heart brimming with resolve, Kevin embraced the challenge of starting over. Every setback, every tear shed over lost dreams, became fuel for the fire that now burned in his soul. His transformation was not just about business. It was a profound metamorphosis of spirit. No longer was he merely a victim. He He was becoming a warrior in a war against injustice. Kevin began with the smallest of steps. With a modest savings account and the unwavering support of a handful of loyal friends, he set up a new enterprise. This time, every decision was made with a laser focus on transparency, fairness, and the relentless pursuit of excellence. He immersed himself in learning the intricacies of the market, dissecting the very systems that had once conspired against him. Late nights were spent poring over financial reports and legal documents, and early mornings saw him working tirelessly to establish trust within his community. Slowly but surely, Kevin's new venture began to take shape, a phoenix rising from the ashes of its predecessor. But beneath the surface of this rebirth simmered a deeper purpose. While the new business represented hope and a fresh start, it was also the arena where Kevin would exact his long-overdue retribution against Arthur Pierce. With every new contract signed and every satisfied customer served, Kevin meticulously gathered evidence of the malfeasance that had led to his downfall. His quest for revenge was not one of blind anger, but a calculated campaign for justice. A quest to expose the corrupt underbelly of a system that allowed the powerful to trample over the dreams of the many. Discreet meetings were arranged with former employees, whistleblowers, and even disgruntled insiders from Arthur's vast network. Each meeting was a step closer to constructing an airtight case that would not only bring Arthur to his knees, but also serve as a rallying cry for all those crushed by the weight of corporate exploitation. In the midst of this intricate web of strategy and retribution, the city itself seemed to mirror Kevin's internal transformation. The towering office blocks and glittering financial centers, symbols of Arthur's empire, now cast long, ominous shadows over neighborhoods where the people began to awaken to the truth. Murmurs of discontent started to rise among the citizens, whispers of a small business owner daring to challenge the might of an untouchable titan. As these murmurs grew louder, a sense of collective purpose began to take root, a belief that perhaps the very foundations of power could be shaken by the resilience of one determined soul. Arthur, however, was not one to be easily subdued. For years, he had thrived on the adoration of his peers and the unquestioning obedience of his subordinates. The subtle sabotage of Kevin's business had been but one of many calculated moves in his relentless pursuit of dominance. Yet, as the signs of dissent began to emerge and the meticulously constructed walls of his empire started to show cracks, Arthur sensed that the tides were shifting. With a cold and analytical mind, he marshaled his resources to counter the threat that was slowly but inexorably closing in on him. His response was swift and merciless, a series of aggressive maneuvers designed to silence dissent and reassert his dominance. High-powered lawyers were summoned, media narratives were spun, and a campaign of intimidation was launched against anyone who dared to speak the truth. Thus began a high-stakes game of cat and mouse. In shadowed boardrooms and behind closed conference doors, a silent war was waged, a war of words, evidence, and strategy. Kevin, armed with the collective weight of the evidence he had amassed, found himself at the center of a burgeoning movement for justice. Each breakthrough in his case was met with counterattacks from Arthur's legion of well-connected enforcers. There were nights when the threat of legal ruin and public defamation loomed large, when even a minor misstep could spell disaster for Kevin's fledgling empire. But with every trial and tribulation, his resolve hardened. The man who had once lost everything now fought with a ferocity born of profound loss and an unyielding desire for redemption. As months turned into years, the battle between the two titans evolved into a sprawling saga that captured the imagination of an entire city. News outlets ran endless analyses of the unfolding drama, a tale of David versus Goliath set in the modern arena of corporate warfare. Social media buzzed with debates and passionate discussions, with everyday people rallying behind Kevin's fight against corruption and the abuse of power. Investors and financial experts watched with bated breath as the scales of influence began to tip. What was once seen as an isolated incident of small-time retribution had grown into a symbol of a larger revolution, a testament to the belief that integrity and perseverance could indeed prevail against even the most formidable adversaries. In the midst of this chaos, the personal cost to Kevin was immense. The pursuit of justice and revenge exacted a toll on his personal life, a price paid in sleepless nights, strained relationships, and the constant burden of a past that could not be forgotten. Yet, every hardship only deepened his understanding of what he was fighting for. Every bitter memory of betrayal, every painful reminder of his previous failures, became a stepping stone toward the man he was destined to become. In his quiet moments, when the city outside was hushed under the veil of twilight, Kevin would often reflect on his journey. He recalled the days when his heart was heavy with despair, when the world seemed to have conspired against him, and he marveled at the transformation that had taken place. A metamorphosis from a broken, defeated man into a beacon of hope and defiance. The climax of this sprawling struggle arrived in a moment that seemed to encapsulate the very essence of the human spirit, a public showdown that would forever alter the narrative of power and justice in the city. In a grand auditorium filled to capacity with journalists, activists, business leaders, and ordinary citizens, Kevin stepped onto the stage. The atmosphere was electric, charged with anticipation and the collective yearning for accountability. With a calm that belied the turbulence of the years behind him, he began to speak. Every word was measured, every sentence laden with the weight of 1,000 untold stories. He presented the meticulously compiled dossier, a record of every underhanded tactic, every corrupt deal, and every instance of exploitation engineered by Arthur Pierce. The evidence was irrefutable, a damning chronicle of a man who had allowed greed to eclipse morality. The revelation was seismic. Arthur's empire, which had long been seen as invincible, now trembled under the relentless force of truth. Investors pulled their support, regulators launched sweeping investigations, and the media turned from admirers to fierce critics. Arthur himself, once the unchallenged king of his domain, was forced into a corner. The once mighty Titan now faced not only public humiliation, but the very real possibility of legal retribution. The courtroom became the final battleground, a place where the scales of justice were meticulously balanced against the weight of undeniable evidence. Yet, even as Arthur's empire began its inevitable collapse, the story was far from over. For Kevin, this confrontation was as much about reclaiming his dignity as it was about exacting revenge. In the days that followed, he did not retreat into the shadows of victory. Instead, he stepped forward as a leader and a mentor, a man determined to transform his personal triumph into a broader movement for fairness and transparency in business. He established initiatives to support small businesses, to educate budding entrepreneurs about the pitfalls of corporate exploitation, and to foster a community where integrity was valued above unchecked ambition. His new enterprise grew not just in size, but in influence, becoming a symbol of hope for anyone who had ever felt crushed by the weight of injustice. In the wake of the downfall of Arthur Pierce, the city underwent a subtle yet profound transformation. Boardrooms, once echoing with the empty boasts of the powerful, now resonated with discussions on ethical leadership and shared prosperity. Communities that had long been overshadowed by the might of corporate giants began to reawaken, their voices united in a call for accountability. The scandal had ignited a spark of change, a revolution not of violence, but of principles. And in this new era, Kevin Thompson's story served as a constant reminder that even when the odds are stacked against you, the human spirit can triumph over adversity, transforming pain into purpose and betrayal into a catalyst for systemic change. But as the dust of battle settled, Kevin was left to grapple with the bittersweet nature of his victory. The triumph of justice was not without its scars. There were moments of quiet introspection when he pondered the true cost of his quest, a cost measured not in dollars or accolades, but in the moments of solitude spent confronting the ghosts of his past. In those moments, he often wondered if the relentless pursuit of revenge had come at too high a price. Yet, as he looked around at the revitalized communities and the renewed sense of hope that now permeated the city, he knew that his sacrifices had not been in vain. The downfall of Arthur Pierce was more than a personal vendetta. It was a beacon for all who had ever dared to challenge an unjust system, a symbol of the idea that even the most powerful can be brought down by the sheer force of resilience and unwavering resolve. As I recount this epic saga to you today, listen closely to every nuanced detail of this battle. A battle fought not with weapons or violence, but with strategy, perseverance, and an unshakable belief in justice. The tale of Kevin Thompson and Arthur Pierce is one that defies simple categorization. It is a story of the human condition, a narrative woven from the threads of ambition, pain, redemption, and the relentless drive to reclaim one's destiny. It is a story that challenges us to look beyond the glittering facades of success and to question the very foundations upon which our society is built. It is a reminder that behind every towering empire and every public triumph, there lies a hidden narrative of struggle, sacrifice, and ultimately, the indomitable strength of the human spirit. Even now, as the city continues to evolve and as new challenges emerge in the ever-shifting landscape of business and power, the legacy of that monumental conflict endures. Kevin Thompson's journey, a journey that transformed him from a broken man into a symbol of resistance, serves as an enduring testament to the idea that true power lies not in the accumulation of wealth or the exercise of control, but in the courage to stand up for what is right, even when the odds are insurmountable. His story is a call to action for all who have been silenced by injustice, a rallying cry for those who believe that every setback is but a prelude to a greater victory. And so, as the sun sets over the revitalized skyline of the city, a skyline that now tells a story of rebirth and reformation, remember the tale of Kevin Thompson and Arthur Pierce. It is a tale that transcends time, resonating with anyone who has ever been wronged, who has ever felt the sting of betrayal, and who has ever dared to dream of a better, fairer world. It is a story of loss and reclamation, of despair transformed into hope, and of the ultimate triumph of the human spirit over the seemingly insurmountable forces of corruption and greed.